back to the Daily Grind. Thanks for checking out the channel. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back pickle biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
Holy flying flipping flapjacks, we've got breaking news. You heard it here second. George St. Pierre vacates his UFC middleweight title. Robert Whittaker is crowned the undisputed champion, and this means a few things. A lot of people expected this. A lot of people thought George St. Pierre was just capitalizing on the fact that Michael Bisping was the middleweight champion, which a lot of people thought was a little bit of a fluke as the way he won the title, which, I mean, you can say what you want. I'm not going to call Michael Bisping's title reign a fluke. I'm just going to say it is what it is. Michael Bisping won the title on short notice versus Luke Rockhold. He wasn't originally scheduled to get a title shot, but whenever Chris Weidman pulled out due to injury, Michael Bisping stepped up, shocked the world, and won the title. I believe he might have been the number 7th ranked middleweight at the time, but he immediately became the champion. For his Michael Bisping's first title defense, he defended against the 12th ranked Dan Henderson, and then after that he went on to lose his middleweight title to George St. Pierre, the former welterweight king. And everyone was like, oh crap, GSP's going up a weight. This makes him the GOAT. He became the champion. He beat Michael Bisping and became the middleweight champion. That officially makes him the GOAT, as he now has 2 titles in 2 different weight classes. And I was like, you know, well, not just me, but some people were like, yeah, it does definitely help his argument. And once he fights one of the top contenders at middleweight, it does cement his legacy as the greatest fighter of all time. But a lot of people didn't believe he was going to fight the real killers of the middleweight division. No disrespect to Michael Bisping, but I'm talking about the guys ranked in the top 5. Michael Bisping just lost his belt, and he's already outside of the top 10 as he fought 3 days later versus Kelvin Gastelum. I didn't mean top 10. He's already outside of the top 5 of the division. He fought Kelvin Gastelum 3 weeks after his George St. Pierre title lost again, which was, you know, there's speculation on whether or not he should have took that fight. Of course, hindsight's 20/20, but Michael Bisping has already lost again since then to another former welterweight, which further brings George St. Pierre's middleweight title win into question just a little bit, because it gives credence to those critics who said, yeah, but Michael Bisping, it's not like he was the best middleweight in the world. It's not like George St. Pierre went up a division and beat the best middleweight. That's why whenever I said, you know, when people use the argument, this makes GSP better than Demetrius Johnson, I said we got to wait on that until he defends the middleweight title, because it would be different for Demetrius Johnson if John Dodson got a rematch with TJ Dillashaw and won that fight again, and John Dodson became the bantamweight champion. And then Demetrius Johnson said, okay, now that John Dodson's the champ, a guy that I've beat twice, I'll go up and win that belt. And now GSP hasn't beat Bisping twice, but it's still similar. You know, John Dodson, some people would not say is the best bantamweight on the planet. So if Demetrius Johnson were to beat John Dodson for that 135 title, people would still say that doesn't make you the GOAT until you defend versus a TJ Dillashaw or Dominic Cruz or a Cody Garbrandt. And that's what I was saying about George St. Pierre. You will become the GOAT and the #1 pound for pound, and that'll be a fair criticism of Demetrius Johnson whenever you defend versus a Robert Whittaker or a Luke Rockhold, a Chris Weidman, a Yoel Romero, a Jacare. There's a lot of real killers at middleweight. Derek Brunson. I mean, Derek Brunson's just one of the others that come to mind, but any of those other guys, anybody, those are the real killers at middleweight that people wanted to see Bisping and GSP fight. Both of those guys were able to avoid the killers of the division due to injury. Michael Bisping had his own injuries, which is why he could not fight Yoel Romero or defend versus Robert Whittaker. And now GSP has colitis. He's been diagnosed with, which a lot of people in the MMA community are a little skeptical of his injury. His, you know, Brennan Schaub, Luke Rockhold, just to name a few that have came out in this past week and been a little skeptical, which I mean, and those are just notable people. A lot of fans, of course, have been skeptical of GSP's middleweight title reign, but it's always, you know, you can't really question somebody's injury, and that's why everyone's, you know, even though you might have thought this was going to happen, people are still kind of probably just going to shut the fuck up about it because he's saying he has an injury, and you can't question that, especially a serious diagnosis such as colitis, which people have said is life-altering in some cases. There's been people in the comments that have told me specifically, hey man, my aunt got diagnosed with colitis and she had a shit bag for the rest of her life, or a colostomy bag, and so it can be very serious. GSP has released an official statement, and this is what he had to say. He said, "My fight at UFC 217 was one of the greatest nights of my life, but now I need to take some time to focus on my health. Out of respect to the athletes and the sport, I don't want to hold up the division. I will be giving up my belt, and once I'm healthy, I look forward to working with the UFC to determine what's next in my career." And now, you know, that's of course just a statement he had to put out, releasing the statement, in vacating the belt, but I mean, clearly his future is money fights. Clearly his future is big fights. I mean, we can go off the record here, you know what I'm saying? This is just what I'm going with. GSP is going to be like Conor McGregor. He's not going to come back and try and take a title and defend the throne. He wants to capitalize on either, you know, the popularity of the sport today. Nobody knows the future of the sport as to where it's going to be 5 years from now. We don't know if it's going to continue to rise. We don't know if this shit's going to fold. I mean, and when I say fold, I mean, we just don't know if, you know, if Conor McGregor doesn't fight again and we don't have another Ronda Rousey or Conor McGregor, or you know what I'm saying, who's going to carry the sport to the heights that it's been at. So it might just decline a little. We don't know what's going to happen with the Fox deal coming up, the new owners. There's a lot of uncertainty with the future of the UFC. So GSP, a guy that feels like he has helped bring the sport to this point, is just trying to capitalize on where the sport is. He wants these big fights, big money fights for the lowest risk, highest reward. That's the name of the game. The lowest risk and the highest reward. And when you're fighting the interim champion in GSP's case or Conor McGregor's case, if you're going to be fighting Robert Whittaker, if you're going to be fighting Tony Ferguson, it's the exact opposite. That's the highest risk and the lowest reward. So that's why these guys, well, you can't say that for GSP. For GSP, it's colitis. But that's what makes the most sense. That's usually what you hear from people. I want the lowest risk and the highest reward, and in defending their title, it's the exact opposite. So I've said enough on this video. GSP has vacated his title. Robert Whittaker has become the undisputed UFC middleweight champion. To some people, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers. And now UFC 221 will be for the official undisputed middleweight championship between Robert Whittaker, Bobby Knuckles, and Luke Rockhold. So with that being said, it is what it is, man. Let the full-time family know what the fuck you tap, man, in the comments. I'm out.
Da 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 da. It's the motherfucking DOWG.